Hey, you are listening to Victims and Villains, a podcast. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, we create content, talk about mental health through pop culture. And I am joined by the man, the myth, and the legend that has been in so many movies. Even if you don't know his name, you probably have seen his face, Mr. Sean Whalen. How are you doing, sir?
Hello. You guys, how's everybody doing?
It's a Monday. It's a good day, I guess.
It's a good day, but the weather's crazy across the US. We have rain right now. We just had leaking for the first time. I've been in this apartment for 8 years. We had leaking over the past storms, and
Jeez.
it's starting to rain again. And where are you? And what's your weather?
So I'm in Richmond and my weather was rainy and overcast all day. And on my way home from my day job, we had rain or we had sun, so
Hmm.
it's gone, it's past.
You
So
in Richmond, Virginia?
yes, sir.
I grew up in Maryland.
I grew up in Maryland as well.
Yeah, Montgomery County here. Where were you?
Harford County. So
Harvard County. Well,
not too terribly far.
we were always competing for the snow days.
Very true.
And we were the ones who always got like the 2 hour delay.
Yeah, sorry.
Worst.
I guess I beat you to
2 hour delay is the worst. Come
that.
on, man. It's so
They
mean
were the
to beat a
worst.
kid.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so you have quite the prolific career, jumping into everything from big budget parts in blockbusters like Batman Returns and Twister, and then to some like more smaller like cult films like Idle Hands
Mhm.
and as you can see behind me, Halloween 2 as
Yeah. Oh, were
well.
you a big Halloween 2 fan?
I am. I actually have Tyler's face tattooed on my hand.
Wow, that's so wild.
So yeah, when this came through, I was like, oh yeah, nope, definitely gonna reach out and do press for this.
Yeah.
Uh, but I feel like you're right now in this press tour to promote your Indiegogo campaign for your upcoming feature film directorial debut with the
Yeah.
movie Crust. And
Mhm.
this is a before we even jump into the crux of this movie, this is a creature feature,
Mhm.
which I feel like you don't really see a whole lot of nowadays. Like we're recording this a couple days after the release of Cocaine Bear, which is probably one of the most high
Did you get to see
profiled.
it?
I did. It's great.
Please tell me, well, you might be sober. I don't know. But I would think that I don't know anyone who's not gonna go with either friends, either having a couple cocktails or maybe having an adult gummy or 2. I have no idea.
That's fair.
Were
I
you
I
did you do one of those 3 or 2 of those
I
3?
I did not. I went to this sober because I was covering it for our outlet, but
And
I
you
would
didn't go
love
with
to.
friends even though? Friends?
No, man. No, it's all about scheduling,
Yeah, you're right.
sometimes.
Oh, well. But I'm sure the crowd was fun. Was it all a press crowd?
No, just a little bit of everyone.
Well,
So
then it must have been fun then.
it was a blast. Absolutely.
I really wanna see it with a crowd. I don't wanna, like, miss out on the crowd experience.
I feel like the seeing it with the crowd definitely like made it
Yeah.
more of a better experience for me.
Yes.
Um, so I would love to like I feel like it's a great like party night kind of movie to
Yes,
watch,
that's what I was saying, and that's
cocktail
what I
party
want.
and then
Yeah, that's what I want my movie to be,
and
100%.
I feel like creature features like they either slide under the radar a lot, or they don't kind of like get the conversation. So what is it even before we start talking about like what crust is and stuff like this, what is it particularly about the creature feature genre that made
Well
you kind of say, I want to start directing here?
well, this was Felissa Rose is very well known in the horror
Hmm.
community, and I always call it a horror comedy, and she was the one who said she came up with a great title. It's a creature feature horror comedy, which
It's
really
nice.
encompasses everything. The creature itself is, I wish I could run away and go get my pictures, but the creature itself is a large sock monster manned by a Muppeteer. And so it's a huge practical puppet.
That's awesome.
That's all like I said, it's I think we have 3 VFX shots the whole thing. The rest is all practical.
Nice.
And I mean, if you consider green screen a VFX, then that's fine. But we have green screen, we have slide projections on a, because there's different, like there's fantasy sequence and then outside the laundromat, and all that is different. So to make that different, we have one section on green screen, one on slides, like people will be acting in front of a projection of a room, and we're doing very cool, interesting things. And the original idea was to have like a man and all covered in socks or whatever. And it was a friend of mine, Eric Porn, who does the special effects and actually built the original Crust puppet from Teen Wolf, the series, and now he's on Walking Dead, who said, you know, he could also just be small and cute, you know, and he made that suggestion. It was very interesting. And then it kind of went from there, that I made it look, it's kind of like if you took Oogie Boogie and cut him off right under the eyes, you know? And and I
Nice.
think that it wasn't really that. It came from an idea. Just I threw out the idea a long time ago in a pitch meeting, and they were just talking about how expensive horror was. And I go, you could just have a guy covered in socks, and you know, he comes to life in a laundromat. Mentioned that 10 years ago, but then cut to, and I love that you know, I really fought for, because we had to siphon through all the people who want to do podcast requests, and I wanted to do this one because this came after a depression of mine. I went through a pretty severe depression after my divorce. I met a new, you know, luckily we had both you know, parted ways long before that. We knew we were not compatible, and it was just, you know, timing and things like that. So there was no broken hearts involved. It was, I think we had a house for 18 years. We were really a good unit. Not, the marriage wasn't, you know, as strong
Sure.
as I actually would like it to be, but we had the kids grow up in this house where they had all the holiday decorations. And then when holidays were coming up, first day in the, you know, divorced dad apartment, I felt like a failure. I was very depressed. I think it was just everything finally coming together. I'd been dating my new girlfriend, you know, for a while, long after we'd been separated. But it was all kind of coming to a head that holiday season. And then actually to defend my ex-wife, she said, you know, I think you just need to get through the holidays, and she was right. But I'd never experienced anything like that, and I thought, you know, I'm never going to feel better again. I'm never going to not be so scared of everything. I couldn't make any decisions. I knew that yoga class was good for me, and I always felt better the rest of the day. But when I'd go to the door, I would be, should I go? Should I not go? I'm tired, but I'm not, you know, and I'd be standing there for like 25 minutes, you know, and sometimes even miss the class because of that. And when I came out of that, it was very interesting. My girlfriend and I were on the rocks, but we got back to, got together. We were doing long distance. We hadn't seen each other in 5 months. We got together, and I think it was getting through the holidays, but I had a lot of anger and weird feelings coming out of a depression, which I've never had before, and I don't know what it was. I wasn't mad at anyone, and I wasn't mad at any particular thing. I think it was maybe just like I don't know, like coming out of the egg and you're like, ah, you know, I don't know if that's a phenomenon with people have had or not. But a lot of people said, oh, you should have had a pet. And I was like, a pet? Like I could barely figure out my own stuff. I had lost a ton of weight. You know, I have no idea I'm supposed to take care of a pet. But then it'd be fun to have a pet that, you know, could get rid of all my enemies. And then I thought, oh, that sock monster idea. And it just flew out of me. I called my friend Jim, who's not a writer, but he's a friend of mine that loves movies, and just, he was so hard on me. He's very, very particular in keeping everything tight and making sense. And I knew he'd be the perfect partner to do this with, because I'm making a movie about a sock monster that comes to life. So I talked to him, and it just kind of poured out of me, like all the things I had learned in therapy while I was going through it, a lot of stuff that, you know, because my main character in Crust is going through a depression at the beginning of the film. And the film is truly about when you're in a tough spot, how do you handle it? Danny Roebuck's character is a person who lost his wife and he's drinking a lot, you know. Instead, there's the hard work that we have to do, which is therapy or reading a good, you know, psych book and a worksheet or something, or, you know, people just go start drinking, or people start, you know, doing too many things that aren't good for them, or get a sock monster that offs your friends. None of that is a good decision. So it's kind of like uh, a movie about that. And there's so many people who have gone through anxiety or depression who have read it and said, "Wow, you have a lot of, you know, things that are interesting in there that seem relatable to me." So
It's incredible how something as dark and as almost crippling like depression can
mm-hmm.
feel how it brings out these lights.
Yeah,
And that's how this podcast got started for me too.
I was
Like
going
I
to
went
ask you. I
through
didn't want to take up, you know, time, but I was so curious. What led you to meld the, you know, entertainment and mental health?
so it's a twofold. To be honest, the first one ended up being that I ended up going through my own depression because I went through a job demotion
Okay.
and kind of going through that and reconnecting with a friend of mine at the time that we had just our lives had kind of drifted us apart. This project brought us together. He's no longer with us anymore. But uh, one of the things that, and then on the flip side of that, one of the things that I heard a lot about was um, I would ask people when I would go to cons, like, you know, why are you a fan of Spider-Man, or why do you play video games, or why do you like Batman? And
Sure.
people would say, "Hey, like I am this fandom because this helps me escape a heartbreak, or
Mhm.
uh, these characters understand what I'm going through."
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like they
And it's,
connected their own mental health.
yeah. Yeah. And it's a community, you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
we all need a community. And you know, my wife's so great because her family is like very sportsy, and, you know, she's dressing up as Poison Ivy and going to a con or whatever. And they'll say, "Oh, how nerdy, how this." And she's like, "Didn't you paint your face as Pittsburgh Steelers last week and wear a jersey of someone on the team? That's cosplay. 100%.
Yeah.
That's cosplay." And even though that cosplay is okay, you know, but obviously sports are a community. But now I found out, you know, I didn't know anyone cared about Roach or People Under the Stairs or any of that stuff until Facebook came out, and all these people kept saying, "We want to meet you at a con. We want to," and I was like, wow, I didn't even know that existed. And then when I went out there, I felt like it was the idea that people, if I did a play, I'd go in the lobby and I'd talk to everyone after the play. Well,
Yeah.
this is the same thing. It's just my plays running all the time, you know, and meeting people, and then you really get the impact of how entertainment helps people through. Like a guy said, you know, I used to watch Twister every Thanksgiving with my mom. It was, you know, right before dinner or right after dinner, we'd sit down and watch it. She goes, "It's going to be hard this year because my mom passed." He goes, "But she'd be so glad I met you. And there's no way I'm not going to watch it because it'll make me think." And you go, wow, entertainment actually helps people pull through some tough times, you know? And yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I really thought of the value of it. And so that's why I was so interested about your podcast.
Well, thank you. Yeah, for me, like also too, like on that note, I get, yeah, I know it's divisive among fans, but I brought up Halloween 2 specifically earlier
Right.
because I like right around the time that a couple weeks after I think it had gotten released on like physical media, so DVD, Blu-ray. Um, I actually lost a friend to suicide. It's kind of how I got started with mental health. And I felt so confused in that time to where I was like, I don't know what to do with this pain. I have so
Right.
many questions. I have so many answers. I need answers.
Yeah.
And to just kind of escape for a few hours, I watched that movie like on repeat.
Mm.
And I just absolutely like that movie means the world to me.
Now, because
Um,
of the thing, because he goes into some more psyche, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why. Yeah. He delves a little deeper into, you know, why Michael Myers, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I love the Halloween too, and it just again you see the connection that mental health has through pop culture, and
Yeah.
if you can make that connection, people are more likely to talk and be open about their own mental health journeys as well. And that's why I love again I love that something what sounds to be like just a throwback to the 80s
Mhm.
with Crust and kind of like this like almost like schlocky horror, how
Yeah. Yeah.
it's coming out of this dark place.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it did. It definitely came out, and I think, but what I found was a community in that sense, and I also thought about how fun this would be actually to go to a horror convention with socks, signing socks, and having the creature and all, and for people to take photos with and things like that. But mainly, it was also, it came out of that pain. But I also found my community and met Felissa Rose because I love sleepaway camp. And not
yeah,
everybody knows Sleepaway Camp, but my wife's a huge Rocky Horror, but not everyone. But the people who love it love it, and
yeah.
that's the movie I want to make. So investors would say, "Well, you should not shoot it in black and white because I'm shooting in black and white." They're like, "You shouldn't do that, and you should do this." And if you want to do it international, and we want to get on the shelves of Walmart, and I go, "But I'm not making it for them. I'm making it for the people at the horror convention who want to grab onto something
Yeah.
fun after coming home, being out, and go out." And then, every good movie has an underpinning, as we know, like the Cold War in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and, Night of the Living Dead with kind of 60s racism, as it was the black guy gets shot at the very end, and very deep themes. And Nope was about like the exploitation of nature and animals, and how it's not really, you get what you take the risk when you try to mess with it. Like all of
Hmm.
them are about something, and this is about when you're down, how do you deal with it? How do we deal with it, and how do we make, and a lot of these people in this movie, for entertainment's sake, make the wrong decisions, and it gets worse, as opposed to, this is a movie about, the guy who gets a really good book, studies it, goes to therapy, and gets well. No one's going to see that movie. So,
No.
the more they get deeper into it, and you're right, like, and what's interesting is I went through a relapse just last year at the end of 21, right after I got married. And it was weird to me because it was everything I ever wanted, in terms of a partner, and so much happiness there. And it was very strange to go through that. And I thought, why would I, there's no, I got the depression of the kids, and not being able to celebrate Christmas in their house and all that stuff. But this was felt like, why now? But I think it was just mortality, getting older, thinking, oh, I've got everything I want now, now everything's over. Or
Sure.
it was just a weird feeling. And this whole directorial debut, me producing, me doing this Indiegogo, and getting it out there and all that stuff, it's the same energy. It's that same, like, you come out the other end and you're like, I want to live, just like your podcast. Like, I want to share this. I have something I want to say. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting is I like I mean like I feel like I part of me grew up with you
Hmm.
watching movies like People Under the Stairs and Batman Returns, and I mean I'm pretty sure that like you've done like Disney or Nickelodeon at some
Yeah,
point. I'm
I
just
did
like
Wizards of Waverly Place, and
yes.
Panama. Yeah, the boogity boogity boogity, that guy, the
Yeah.
Halloween episode. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
so like I part of me like feels like I really connected with your like stuff, and also you did one of my favorite horror films that flies under the radar with Drive Through
Oh
um
wow.
as well.
You
Yeah,
know, can I tell you, I just saw that for the first time last month
oh my
because
gosh.
it got renamed. It
Oh, did
wasn't
it?
called Drive Through. Well, no, it came out as Drive Through, but when I did it, it was called something else. So I never really. I guess that was just, it was a busy time, and I don't know. I don't know why I never found it. And then people started to say Drive Through, Drive Through, and I was like, huh. I went back and I go, oh, that's that movie that I was the crazy janitor or whatever. And so I finally watched it. It's just my wife is so scared of clowns and stuff like that that she was like, all right, you're watching. So I had to kind of speed through it. But it was fun to finally go, oh, I finally got to see it. But yeah, that's like a fun, campy, type itself. I think for me, I didn't want to do another masked or big person,
Yeah.
I think that's why I wanted to do like a creature, like, the only other time I can think about it was Audrey 2, right?
Sure.
In Little Shop of Horrors. And the original one was super crazy, Roger Corman in 3 days, And so it's, I wanted to make him lovable, likable, but also, you know, where do we stand with him and things like that. So I think that's, it was really easy for me to go, now I've just seen so many big scary things, either a clown or a guy with a mask or whatever, that's having this small thing in a laundry basket. A lot of people said, oh, basket case, but he doesn't live in the basket very much. But it's kind of like a blob,
Sure.
and I'm a puppeteer, and I was a puppeteer as a kid. So having a practical puppet thing is very, very cool. And again, I just wanted something weird and fun, when
I
I write sketches at the Groundlings, I'd write like, they're on a bad date and she's, such a jerk. And I would write it and I would just tear it up because I've just seen that so many times. I only
yeah.
want to do something that's different. If I can't do something different, I'm not interested in it. And so I had to do something to keep me interested,
I
and that's what I think it keeps it
I
fun.
was so I am curious. I mean, when it comes to like directing, you've been in the craft for nearly a little over 30 years at this point.
Yeah.
Um, so like, switching from something like like a character actor, like what, most people know you from, to now
Yeah.
being like, hey, like I'm the guy that is not only the producer, but also the writer, the director. Like,
Yeah.
what are some like challenges that you've kind of faced early on? Because you guys are still in like pre-production for this, so
Pre-production, yeah, we started in April. I think it's the constant, you just have to find people who want to be a part of it and
sure.
understand how lucky we are to be a part of it. People that I thought would be super chill or whatever, fun, and then people who I thought, you know, are acting a little nuts, and the people who I thought might be a little difficult or beautiful. You just don't know. It's just people, when people think like, oh, you've got something that a lot of people want. I think that's a really interesting thing. But I fought really hard. Felissa and Dan are fantastic producers. Ricky Dean Logan, they're fantastic, and they had their own actors, and they had their own actors and a lot of crew, and I just said, listen, I need my actors. I have to work with people I've worked with. I can only have people on the set that I trust on the acting front. Like, I don't want this idea. And listen, I'm not a huge fan of Clerks, and people get a little mad. And I just said, it's only because if you wouldn't ask me to watch a movie that was blurry, you wouldn't ask me to watch a movie that you couldn't really hear. You wouldn't, couldn't ask me to, but why would you ask me to watch a movie that has actors that don't know how to act? You know? And that was kind of hard for me because I go, I get it, but why is this passable? People go, oh, it's the writing. And I go, but the writing comes alive with actors. I get it. I totally see the appeal. I saw the movie. I get it 100%. You know what I mean? And I'm no disrespect to Kevin Smith. But for me, I think when people think of low budget movies, they think of bad acting, you know?
Sure.
And I'm making sure that does not happen on this movie. That's why Danny Roebuck, Alan Ruck, Felissa Rose, Rebecca Kennedy, really good, solid actors. And I think mainly to me, it's, we're doing an Indiegogo. You can still help. When they say, oh, you met your goal, that is never what you're going for. It's to it's to keep you relevant on the page, and you can surpass it. So a lot of people think, oh, you're done, you got it. It's like, no. We were doing that just to get on the page and get going. But like I said, I think it's, running that's an all day thing. Now, also, I have to work with my DP to get a shot list together, because once we get all the shots figured out, then I can start working on rehearsals with my actors. Then I can start working on me acting, So I'm taking it one piece at a time, raising the money, doing all that stuff, putting out fires when you can. It's like, I feel like you're building a structure while putting out fires, And there's,
Yeah,
luckily, I don't have a lot of fires, because I really have a great group of people who are very appreciative and know, you know, this isn't going to, we don't have a huge trailer and a gift basket for you waiting when you get to the set.
sure.
It's an independent movie. But I wanted to get them liking it from the script, and they all loved the script. And that's what was exciting for me.
Most of our audience has been blessed with the breaking of that clerk's notion, to
Yeah.
where they understand, they know that, like, yeah, yes, there are going to be movies that are going to be a DIY, that are going to really lean into that camp and that
Hmm.
absurdity and the bad acting trope and everything like that.
Yeah.
There are going to be movies that are just bad for bad sake.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have movies out there that are, like, well acted, well shot, well written, well, like, edited, like, just through and through. Some of my favorite filmmakers working today are, like, filmmakers that circle around the DIY scene.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm really excited to see this movie. I love the fact that this is it can be shot in black and whites. I love the idea that this is definitely feels like kind of like the Twilight Zone meets, like, something that, like, Roma would produce. Is
It's
is kind of what the way that you make it sound?
I First of all, Rod Serling was and probably still is my hero. I didn't know for years that he wrote the first Planet of the Apes. You know? Did you know that he wrote the original Planet of the Apes movie?
I didn't. Outside of horror movies, Planet of the Apes is my favorite film franchise. That
The
blows my
original,
mind.
the OG five.
The OG five, I have them over here in my physical
It's a
collection. I have
perfect
a statue back here too,
And
so
it's a perfect circle. It's a perfect circle. The fifth
that's
one feeds
wild.
into the first one, and it's like, oh my god! And it's Rod Serling wrote it. So Rod
That's
Serling,
wild.
who wrote Twilight Zone, Night Gallery, the first Planet of the Apes. And if you think about the first Planet of the Apes, and you'll know this well, they marketed all the cool stuff. Well, the first part is very weird and actiony, and the last part is obviously weird. And the whole middle part is a debate on does man deserve to be on a planet when they can't really take care of themselves, and they
Yeah,
always fight each other. And remember that whole trial scene in the middle?
I
It's
do.
very, very Twilight Zoney in terms of they're literally making it could be its own play about the ethics of, does man exist? And you think, Rod Serling, dude, he gets all this super cool stuff, just like we were talking about meaning. He gets all these super cool ideas out with this ape thing,
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
wild.
so great. And then obviously the end is no, they can't, they don't deserve
Yeah.
it, and he's just so for you to say Twilight Zone and Trauma, I love, um I love that. I mean, to me that's a compliment. Some people be like, whoa dude, what? I love that, are you kidding? Twilight Zone's the best, and
I
Trauma keeps it light and fun, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I know you are currently we're short on time, but uh as of today, Alan Ruck has also joined the cast as well.
First time
Um,
that we've acted together since Twister, 27 years. So
Congratulations.
thank you
He's a
very much.
great actor as well.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I'd love
s-
to come back and talk more about this, because I've read really good books that are helpful, and finding out about learned optimism and cognitive therapy and all this stuff that is not raw. It's like Learned Optimism was a huge book that helped me, because
mhm.
it's not, I don't know if you know the book, it's by Seligman. He's very famous in the idea that it's not the proactivity, Tony Robbins, rah, 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 that kind of thing. It's just the absence of pessimism,
Yeah,
as opposed to saying, wow, that call didn't go that well. I wish it would have went better. Instead
sure.
of going, oh, that call, and you personalize it. I must be the worst person in the world. And then, make it bigger and catastrophize it and say, I must be a terrible person. What am I doing even trying to do business? You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff, just to learn how to write down the thing and dispute it with facts and go through. And I did a huge notebook that I had to get through to kind of relearn everything. And mental health is huge. And I'm looking for, I would like to have a company or something that I could actually have join me kind of on this film about, normalizing mental health.
Sure.
And like I said, this movie it's not like Michael Corleone is the healthiest guy in the world. By the
Yeah.
time he shuts the door in his wife's face and lies and says, "Oh, I didn't kill your brother," you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
he's not in great mental health at that point. So I guess my point is that like it came out of a really dark place. I touch it on in the movie. I talked about what I learned, being the hero of your own story, which is the scariest thing for every single one of us. So yeah, I'd love to come back.
I would love to have you back. Like I said, I would love to hear more of your story and kind of like where the creativity kind of started, where the depression kind of ended, and like how the two battled back and forth for your soul.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's a great way to put it. It's a great way to
um,
put it, man.
yeah. So you guys can support Indiegogo. Right now, I will provide a link in the description if you guys are watching this on YouTube. Click the links down below, and I will also have a link in the podcast notes as well if you guys are listening to this wherever you guys get your
One,
podcast
one,
from.
one quick
Yes, sir.
note. If you get a special thanks, so you'll be a part of movie history, me and Alan acting together for the first time in 27 years, but also it's original. It's not Toy Story 5 or Frozen 3 or whatever. It's a new, fun, original thing. If you get a special thanks credit, you'll be in the movie forever. It's $25. But also, if I get 1,000 of those, and we got like almost 100, I will. The fans voted, and they said that I have to dress up and perform a drag show. So I will do that if we get 1,000 special thanks. So that's your incentive.
There you go, guys. Make sure that you guys go support Crust and continue to support independent film because we love independent film here at Victims and Villains, and we're really, really glad to have. I'm really glad to actually just have the opportunity to sit down and talk with you, Sean. It's been a true
Thank you.
pleasure. If you guys are listening to this right now, you guys can go to victimsandvillains.net for more podcasts like this, as well as links to all of our social media and most importantly, our mental health resource library. So until next time, remember to stay classy.